العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My brother, alhamdulillah, we have a live talk tonight. The title is Lust. And whenever we have this word lust, sometimes, or most of the time rather, it's somewhat hard to admit and it's somewhat embarrassing to discuss in public. Let's be real and let's be honest here. So inshallah we have a live talk about it, and the speaker we invited is Gabriel, who did come to campus once before, and I met him, alhamdulillah, but I never knew it was him, he was him. So yeah, alhamdulillah, that was the random surprise I got. To give a brief background, or in just details about the Sheikh, he is the founder of ICRA, and he graduated with a double major in biology and psychology. He also graduated from the Faculty of Education in Canada. And this is just a brief introduction I could give, inshallah. I hope the Sheikh could complete the rest. So without further ado, if I could pass it on to you.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Let me just get this straight. Brilliant mics. There we go. Yes. Alright. Okay. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. This working as in, or just for the recording? No, I mean like, is there on the speakers or just on the? You can hear me? Yeah. Properly? Okay. طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. جزاكم الله خير for inviting me for this talk. It's been about an hour and a half that I spent on the road, and quite interesting. I'm just getting used to KL because I'm new. It's just been about a year now that I've lived in Malaysia, moved here, and it's an exciting and interesting experience. I've traveled around the world, about 40 countries. I lived in a lot of these countries. I was born in Romania, Eastern Europe, to a Christian family. I was baptized in 3 different churches, and alhamdulillah, through my life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided me to ask a lot of questions about faith, about religion, about who He is. And even though I grew up around a interesting environment, I would say my brother was a drug dealer. He recently passed away about 3 months ago due to heart failure. And I do like to mention that because he was one of my projects. For about 16 years I tried to give him dawah and it didn't work. And indeed, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Indeed, you do not guide those whom you love, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides whom He wills. This verse was revealed about Abu Talib, Abu Talib, we cannot say because he died as a kafir, but we know the sadness of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you understand it when you live it. Really, this verse comes to life when you live it. And so yeah, my social dynamics were quite interesting. One of my best friends was murdered. I grew up around seeing, sorry to say this, but hookers and prostitutes that some of my friends were pimping, and drugs were available, guns were available, everything was available that you wanted. And somehow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pushed me away from that and allowed me to find Hidayah when I was 20 years old in Canada. I was studying first year university. How many first years here? Anyone? Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you guys. Make it easy for you. It was not an easy time for me. It was a time where I was suffering, actually, surrounded by so many questions about faith, about life, about what is right and what is wrong. I've just kind of questioned my own ethnicity and philosophy of life that I've learned my whole life, and found or thought to be correct. But then of course there's something in traveling, and as I said, I've traveled around the world due to my work. There's something that opens up your mind, exposure to different cultures, different thinking, that makes you a lot of time question who you are. And I know that a lot of you might be there. I've just had a meeting before coming here at work, and it was pretty much about this: people questioning themselves, who they are, starting from culture, religion, sexuality. People want to know who they are. And I would say that the 21st century is a century where there's a lot of confusion. People claim a lot of freedom and that we're living in a more educated society and that the world is more open. But I would argue a lot of the people are saying that they don't actually work at the grassroots level with some of these problems. They're just picking up this stuff from social media. When you work with people shoulder to shoulder, face to face, and you get to understand their problems, when they tell you to your face, when you see it, then it's a different story. It doesn't become just a social media sensation or a movie. It becomes reality, and reality is totally different than what we see behind the screens. There's a lot of fakeness behind the screens. I call it life with a filter. Everyone likes to put filters on selfies. It's basically what it is. So growing up in that environment and finding Islam at a time where really I was going through depression, suicidal thoughts, confusion, who am I, what is right, what is wrong, who is God, all these things. I left Christianity because it wasn't satisfying enough spiritually, but at the same time intellectually it was not dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I lived in an environment where you question things, you try to understand things, an educated environment, and Christianity was just not making it. So I left it. I didn't convert from Christianity to Islam. I actually left Christianity for quite some years and then started digging into philosophy, into Buddhism, Hinduism, and different ideologies. And Islam was the one that I was like, let's take it easy on, but it was the one that was the most irresistible. So the topic that I'm going to talk to you about today, I would say I'm very qualified to speak on, because I was in the middle of this. I was surrounded by lust and desire. Everyone was coming and saying, hey, what about this? Have some drugs. No thank you. It's really good. No thank you. How about some drinks? No thank you. How about some sex? No thank you. It's very cheap. No thank you. How about for free? No thank you. So everything was available. So imagine here a 15-year-old, 16, 17, 18, 19 male living in North America. Everything's available, and trying to fight that off. I mean, the temptation, the problems, the questions, the debate, the internal war that was taking place in the mind of this young man who wanted to understand what's the purpose of this life. I remember one time getting in my convertible car while having been under the influence of alcohol, just leaving a party, and literally putting my head up in the sky and driving through 5 red lights to see what would happen. That's how bored I was, because life just didn't have any meaning. Okay, popularity, tick, achieved it. Money, tick, achieved it. Gangster status, tick, achieved it. what you want else, achieved, and they're like, what else is there? What else is there to this life? Laying down in bed at night, I would stare at the ceiling and saying, what else? Like, I've tried it. I've seen this, I've done that, I've tasted this. What else? There must be something else, right? It's like, that's it. So I think, personally, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put me in that position to understand that there is something more than that. That you have to fight your desires and push for a higher purpose in this life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up that door for me through a dream that I dreamed that I was dying, that woke me up really to life and to getting serious about Islam. And I went on to get my education. I took my Shahada in my first year of university. I got my double major in biology and psychology, neuroscience and cognition, to understand how the mind works. Then into education to teach others how the mind works. Then alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me to travel to the Arab world, and I was able to study Islam in a university setting as well as at the traditional level in a village with some of the scholars. And I try to always get a balanced understanding of life, you know. So going to the topic of lust, I know that a lot of times when this topic is addressed in the issue of haram, halal, what is the ruling on this and on that. And alhamdulillah, a lot of scholars have done a great job in discussing the issue of the nafs and the hawa and the shahawat, or the desires. However, I would say that we have failed as an ummah right now to address the issue correctly at large. Yes, people have aimed at it, have hit at it, but we are not able right now to have a correct discussion about this, a realistic discussion, to offer solutions to people who are surrounded by lusts and desires. We're living here in the 21st century in a hedonistic society, a world village that surrounds us with temptation. And the problem is, number one, the understanding of the Muslim cultures, Arab culture, Indian subcontinent culture, where these things are very taboo to discuss. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. It will be again a lecture where people will tell you that it is haram, which we know, I hope everyone knows, right? And that this is the ruling on it, and this might be the punishment for it, and that's it. And that you should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is no doubt correct. But then we're left to find solutions. So people are giving advice that you should fear Allah. Okay, good, of course, no doubt about it. People are told it's haram. Okay, no doubt about it. But what else? Because when we look at the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ didn't just come, sit at a table and give a lecture of a list of fatawas of what's haram, what's halal, and that we should fear Allah. Even though that's the default, right? He would advise the people with the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Any khutbah that he would start, any lecture, okay? He would, Ya alladhina amanu, okay? Taqullah haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. So he would give the ayat of taqwa, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he deserves to be feared, and do not die except in the state of submission. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was part of the community. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would meet people face to face. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would advise people, would give them solutions, would sit with them, would not close the doors of mercy and would not make people despair of Allah. I ask you today, if you have committed a sin such as, I don't know, zina or close to zina, would you feel comfortable to open up to someone? And I'm not talking about your friend who might tell you, good job, yeah, teach me how to do it. I'm talking about someone that can help you, a figure that is trustworthy, a scholar. It's very difficult these days. There are some, alhamdulillah, but it's very difficult. I'm not here to criticize anything or anyone. I'm here to raise a problem. I'm coming from the battleground. Okay? After I graduated, after I'd done my studies, I became a teacher. I started teaching. And I taught young ones first, little ones. Then I moved to high school. I started teaching men and women. And students somehow felt comfortable with coming to me with their problems. I don't know. They just felt comfortable talking to me. I spent time studying the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ to see what was his way of consulting, giving advice, and so on. So the people would open up more and more, brothers and sisters. So a lot of my time that I spent as a teacher, I was able to understand real life problems. I was able to spend time with my students day in and out. It's not the same when you just kind of drop in like I am doing today, and I'm doing a lecture to you, and then I'm going to pack up and go. Yes, we can exchange information and all that, but in the end, a community has to be built around a support system if you want to solve problems. And not just that, but problems have to be addressed. And not just that, we got to move away from this taboo culture. Very clearly, what's the evidence for that? The Prophet ﷺ would address issues. Sadly, today people tell you, bro, you shouldn't be talking about this, bro. You're spreading fitna. And our response, those da'is and whoever are talking about some of these things, such as this topic, is that, no, but the Prophet ﷺ addressed these issues. What are you so humble about? Because this self-righteousness type of culture that's spreading around a lot, especially through social media, we have a total different look on social media, a total different look in private and in our own lives. And that is killing us, because we can't get to the root of the problems, and we find that the society is slowly slipping. And people can't find someone to talk to because they get judged right away. So they don't feel comfortable to approach anyone. Because right away we judge what? Based on the look. Sister, you don't wear hijab. Get out of here. Oh, bro, you don't have beard. Get out of here. I'm not saying hijab and beard is not important. I'm just saying that that's not how you deal with it. That's not the sunnah. We love to talk about sunnah and bid'ah, but we don't understand what sunnah and bid'ah is. It's all about just certain aspects of ibadat and so on. Very, very limited thing. But there's another 23 hours in the day. And again, what's the evidence? What I'm saying? No. We'll look at what the Prophet ﷺ, what he used to do. We all know the event of the young man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, I did everything with a girl except, strike out, fourth base. What did the Prophet ﷺ do? He slapped him? He said, Astaghfirullah, go to hell. Sometimes you get this kind of response today. The Prophet ﷺ used a beautiful technique in education, where instead of just saying something directly, you use questioning to make the person realize what they have done. Because I can talk to someone and say, bro, you're wrong. And they'll be like, okay. But when I make them realize slowly through questioning that what they've done is not correct, it has a higher impact and more opportunity for them to change themselves. I cannot change you, and no one can change you. You are the only one who can change yourself. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition of people until they change what's in themselves. You got to take that thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you, but you got to do it. So the Prophet said, would you want that for like your mother? And he's like, no. Then he didn't stop there. He's like, would you like that for like your sister? No. What about your, and he kept going to his female relatives one by one. And the guy kept saying, no, no. And the more the Prophet ﷺ asked him, the more the guy realized that this is wrong. This is wrong. Understand? That's the difference between a prophetic way of advising someone and dealing with, what was he dealing with? He was dealing with lust. Lust is one of the most powerful things in this world. It is part of our fitrah. Don't think that it's coming from somewhere. Allah has created us with this ability. And it depends. That's another thing. It depends how we use it. A lot of people think that it is haram to have desire. And this is a huge problem as well. So, going back to the problem, there's a need to talk, to have some real talk on this issue. And very few people are having it. And very few people are qualified to have it. And very few people follow the prophetic way of doing it. And because we're failing at that, because we're not attempting these issues, alhamdulillah, there are a lot of speeches and lectures about Islam. And good, there should be. But we need to have also to address some of the problems that our societies are facing in our communities. Such as no one is talking about lust. Very little. Other than the ayat and some hadith, but no one gets into it. No one has a Q&A about it. So for example, with my students, I allow them to write on pieces of paper, small piece of paper, whatever they want, and have an open Q&A. And when I talk to them and I say, so what do you guys think about this? They're all like, but when I give them a paper, man, you should see the questions that come about. But these are real stuff. This is real stuff that if we don't address as scholars, as da'is, as ulama, as learned people, then guess what? People start asking in different places. Internet, Dr. Phil, whatever. Yeah, Oprah. Yeah, Ellen DeGeneres. This is what people talk. Steve Harvey. They're translating Arabic right now. Do you know how much time it takes to translate in Arabic? It's tough, man. But some Arab decided that he will translate in Arabic. And he gives them great advice. Wow. Super. This is the reality, guys. We need to address these issues. We need to be trained to address this. We have to experience. Imagine when I first got into this seriously, it was when two of my students came to me in an Arab country. I'm not going to name the countries. I'm not going to try to stay away from naming people. Two of my students came to me. I had a class of 24 boys in an all-male school, and I was their English teacher. I learned Arabic before they learned English. But so they came to me and they said, "Ya Ustaz, we need to talk about a serious problem with you, and I feel like we can talk to you about this problem." I said, "What's up?" He said, "You see, all these boys, 24 of them, me and my friend here, we like girls. The other 22 like boys." I said, "Man, that's a problem. Let's do the math. Out of 24, 2, what's that? Less than 10%, huh? Are straight. And man, they were right. But see, we don't like to talk about this stuff, right? People don't want to go, no, no, brother, shh, don't talk. But the Prophet ﷺ talked about this. The Prophet ﷺ talked about zina. The Prophet ﷺ told us about shahawat and desires and how to identify them, how to control them. The Prophet ﷺ talked about homosexuality and lesbianism. The Prophet ﷺ talked about many things. The Prophet ﷺ talked about wet dreams, talked about women, talked about men, talked to women, talked to men. But people, I call it holier than the Prophet ﷺ syndrome. You know, people think that they can be holier than Allah's messenger and not address these things and shy away from them. But the thing is, something is going to fill that vacuum. Something will fill that vacuum. And the question is what? And the reality is, I'll tell you what, by statistics. Recently I finished a study. What fills this vacuum, guys? Yeah, Google, internet. People want to know what's going on. Pornography. Pornography. Muslims are watching pornography. They're addicted to pornography, man. Addicted. Men and women. More men than women, but women are now catching up, right? Because women always want to be equal to men, right? This is a fight for equality. So now they're watching more. They have more access. Everyone's got one of these. People want to know what's going on. Hey, you know, our parents don't teach us. Our parents don't teach us. Stay, you know, you're ashamed. Don't talk about that. SubhanAllah. Some men they don't know that they reach puberty. Some men don't know what they have to do once they reach puberty, that there's some rulings and what you have to do. And some women don't know what happens when they get their menses, because their parents don't talk to them. They are shy. They're ashamed. We don't talk about any of this. Abuse, for example. If by any chance in some of our societies anyone gets abused or touched, man, sometimes we get shut down by everyone. Don't talk about this. It's a shame for the family. And it gets encouraged and let on, and then guess what? People suffer for the rest of their lives. It changes their sexuality. It changes the way they look at life, the way they look at men or women. It changes all these things. I hope you guys were not expecting for me to give like a nice cute lecture on this topic, yeah? I told you guys, yeah, before I come, it's like raw and uncut, yeah? You guys have to do some editing after. But this one's live, huh? So I don't know. Huh? This one's live too? I'm sorry, bro. It's first and last, huh? I guess, huh? It's okay, inshallah. Doesn't matter. Guys, the reality is that we're having some huge issues. So how do we deal with these things if we do not address them? I'm starting with the problem. There is a problem. Scholars say that the shahawat are, you know, there's something that are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your desires, your lusts. We know the famous hadith of Gabriel alayhi salam going and looking at Jannah and Jahannam, right? And today I was citing this hadith to my students. And when he looked at Jannah, what did he say? What did he say? Anyone know? He's surrounded by what? By su'ubat, difficulties. It's very tough. It's not going to be easy. There's some work that needs to be done. And then he looked at Jahannam and he said it's surrounded by what? By shahawat, by desires. Everyone will enter it, he said. Right? And you know what's funny? If you look at the story of Adam and Eve, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid them from? From what? Yeah, from the tree, right? Don't go. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةَ, right? Don't go close to this tree. See, human beings, now when you're told something is not allowed, it becomes more exciting. This is it, subhanAllah. Isn't it? People like to break the rules. It becomes exciting. right? So desire builds around, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a boundary. This is haram. This is not allowed. So you don't go close to it. This is what the story of Adam and Eve is, not just a story of forgiveness, as we know. We love to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّهُ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. He's made tawbah to them. It's not just about it. It's a story to teach us about desire, about what will push us towards the haram. Was there something wrong with that tree, guys? Did anyone know? Like, what was wrong with the tree? Why can't you go close to it? What's wrong with the tree? Nothing wrong with the tree. It's just that Allah said don't do it, right? I know we live in the 21st century. When people ask you, oh, why don't you eat pork? I'm like, because there's this bacteria and we give a whole research, academic research of why this is not allowed, right? And then salah, if you bend like this, a lot of neutrons go down. There's all kinds, right? It's like those, you love this stuff, right? In the end of the day, it's because Allah said so. سَمِعْنَا وَطَعْنَا. The Sahabas didn't be like, hey, let me tell you like the scientific miracles, which is cool. Like I'm coming from a science background. I love it. There's a lot of cool stuff, right? But in the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us so. It is a test of iman. There's hikmah behind, no doubt about it. People have studied and have gone into it, and we love that, we're proud of it, that there's always hikmah behind everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. But in the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with the tree. Allah is teaching us about our desires and about limits. And that's our whole life. Everywhere you step out of this room, and you have to stay on the left side, right? I'm still getting used to the left side. Okay? You have to park in the right place, right? We're struggling there to park right now. Everything is rules and regulations. Human beings are like that. As soon as you move away from that, what happens? Chaos. Now, human beings, they think they're okay because they've left the rules of Allah and they've replaced them with man-made rules, right? Which change over and over, just like Parliament just changes, and things change sometimes, right? Like this, and they change it, and what was wrong 10 years ago might not be wrong today. Maybe 10 years from now it's going to change again. But that's how human beings work. In the end of the day, they still need rules, because if not, everything is destroyed, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us this great lesson. Surah Al-Baqarah, the beginning, teaches us a lot of this. It's a very, very deep thing. Now, going back to the issue of lust. How much time do I have, guys? Half more hour. Okay. Plus Q&A or Q&A including?
No.
You have Q&A after? Okay, perfect. So Q&A, I hope it's going to be interesting. So, when it comes to lust, again, people don't want to talk about it because it's been made for us to believe that it's haram to have desire. And it's been suppressed and pushed onto the side, but we find that that's created a lot of hypocrisy in the ummah. Okay, and you'll find in very conservative countries where there's underground movements for everything. There's underground movements for homosexuality, for drinking, for you name it, right? Because people want to hide things, and then they think that, okay, people just overlook it. Okay, but these things don't go away. If people don't address them correctly, they do not go away. The Prophet ﷺ said something amazing about lust. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always given us a alternative. So, haram to drink alcohol, right? But water is halal, or juice, or whatever you want to have, right? Zina is haram, but nikah is halal. Okay? Pork is haram, but chicken, beef, halal, zabiha is halal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us always alternatives. He gives us other things that we can have to satisfy, quench our desires. Okay? People have desire to eat, so Allah gives them halal tayyib. People have desire to fulfill, their sexual desire, so Allah gives nikah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always gives you the option out. Prophet ﷺ, he told us very clear, if a man walks on the street, for example, and sees a beautiful woman that will incite his desire, that he should go where? Guys are not married, huh? You should go to your wife. Anyone married here? No? Okay. Alhamdulillah. Sisters married? Okay, no? Okay. Right, so, see, the Prophet didn't say, destroy yourself, or no, he gave you an option. Wait a minute, you're looking at women? Bro, what are you doing? You should lower your gaze, right? A lot of times people don't understand the Sharia. It's all about like, you should, right? And when we read through the Sharia, you should pay zakat, right? You should do hajj, you should pray, right? But a lot of times people don't. True or not? You should lower your gaze, right? But a lot of times people don't, right? You should stay away from zina, but a lot of times people don't. So the Sharia doesn't deal only with you should or should not, but the Sharia also deals what happens when you don't. What happens when you're about to fall into a deep sin? What happens when you're close to the boundaries? What's your last step? How do you protect yourself? What if you have fallen into the sin? A lot of people don't talk about that. You should do this, you should do that, you should stay away from this, you should stay away from that. But what happens if you don't? And actually most people will fall into the sins. Is there anyone who doesn't? As the Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّ بَنِي آدَمْ خَطَّأٌ. Every son and daughter of Adam commits sins. But the best of them are those who make tawbah. Right? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given tawbah. Because when you fall into that sin, you come out of it through tawbah. So Islam addresses the should, that you shouldn't, but then Islam also gives you the solution as to what to do once you fall into the problem. Once you fall into the problem. But people don't address that issue. People don't want to talk about that issue. People don't open up the ability for us to discuss, what do we do? Who do you go to if you have this problem? Because it's not enough to just say, okay, make tawbah. Yes, you should make tawbah, but tawbah involves an action as well, not just making istighfar. Okay? Istighfar is when you say astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh, astaghfirullah. But tawbah requires more than that, requires an action. We know the story of the person who killed 99 people, right? What was specific about that? What was he asked to do? Putting guys to sleep or what? Huh?
To leave the city.
Yeah, he had to go. He had to make a move, right? Who told him that? I mean, do you guys like get these ahadith, or is it just stories? He goes to someone and he tells him, I killed 99 people. And the guy says, what? Will Allah forgive me? What did he say? He says, no. Okay, let me make it 100. I know we laugh at this, but he actually, do you believe this? It's not a story, yeah? This actually happened. He killed 100 people. These are just not qasas as in a story that's made up. I hope you understand that. When the Prophet ﷺ speaks, it's not just some kind of fairy tale. The guy killed 100 people. He is a criminal. He's a mass murderer. And he goes to an alim, a real alim. Imagine, sometimes we are doing a sin that's much, much smaller than that, right? And then you try to look for someone to help you, to give you some guidance, and you'll say, no. Subhanallah. So where's the sunnah? Where's following the sunnah? It's not about the thawb only, guys. Where's the following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? So that alim who is a real alim, what do you say to him? Can you find forgiveness? What do you say? Say yes, you can. Allah will forgive you, but you have to Move, yeah? You have to make a move. Do we have that person? Do you guys have someone that you can go to, you trust, you can open up to? Anyone? Do? Alhamdulillah, good. Stick to them. Someone who can really advise you as to what to do, a spiritual guide. We're missing. I believe that this is huge. If in this class of how many, 50 people, only one person has that, it's very sad. Without being judged, without being, like Al-Ghamidiyya, the woman who committed zina, she came to the Prophet ﷺ, right? She confessed to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did he do? Did he slap her? What did he do? You know what he did? He turned his face, subhanAllah. He turned his face from her. Why are we living today in a world where we cannot find people that we can go to discuss these issues? That we cannot find someone to offer a solution, help. People don't feel, because we've been told that, okay, you should cover your sins. Yes, cover your sins. Meaning, you're not going to go around and be like, hey guys, look, guess what I did last night. You see, we don't understand the hadith correctly. That's another issue. Because if you continue to make those sins, you need to seek some help. There was a brother who was running a service about helping porn addicts. And the service didn't do so well because people were not coming forward. After some time, the bubble just exploded and people started saying, we can't take it anymore, we're addicted, this and that. Pink elephant in the room, boom, all of a sudden, everything is out. And then people, he offered a service that was confidential, but people were not open enough to come forward till it just exploded. So we need to understand, you should cover your sins, as in you don't go and start waving around and telling, because people, that's what they do, right? Hey bro, guess what I did last night? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He covers the ones who commit the sin in the morning or at night. But if they expose themselves, then Allah will expose them. Some people love to brag about, oh bro, I did this and I did that and blah 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 and whatnot. But when you are suffering from something, you need to go to someone. So the Sahaba would go to the Prophet ﷺ, and some of the other Sahabas would go to the Sahaba, and some the Tabi'een would go to the Sahaba, and so on and so forth. People would go to seek help and advice. How to deal with this? How do you deal with something as powerful as this, that it's inviting you day in and day out to Jahannam? And how do you direct this power towards something that is halal? This is the question that I want to explore. Because the lust, if you allow it to take over you, as Ibn al-Qayyim says, he says that it's like having a pig and a dog, and you're holding their leashes, and you have to hold it back. You are the one who controls it. Have you ever walked dogs, right? They pull you, right? It's like that. Pulls you. Come here, come there. And if you don't know how to deal with it, it will pull you. And that's why Islam is called Islam, because it's submission. It is stopping those desires, controlling them, and submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, lust, can you kill it? The Prophet ﷺ would advise people to fast, right? Okay, let's be honest, guys. How many of us fasted after Ramadan? Some, alhamdulillah. But how many people really have taken that advice of the Prophet ﷺ to heart, that they feel desire and they fast? Say, Ya mashar shabab, oh shabab, if you cannot get married, fast. Reality, a lot of you, shaitan is very smart, he will say, you're in university, guys, you need to drink water, you have exams, you gotta eat, come on, right? That's what it is. He's smart. He's very smart, guys. He's been around for a long time. He's got a double PhD in psychology and behavior and everything. He knows everything that has to deal with Bani Adam, right? As the Prophet said, one hadith is authentic or not disputed, but he runs in the blood of the son of Adam. So he gives you a lot of excuses We should fast, right? Remember the should, yeah? But what's the reality? How many do it? Okay, so what do we do when we don't? The Prophet said, get married, huh? But we don't get married. You got people in their 30s, man, they're still playing PlayStation in their parents' apartment, in the basement, living there. I like it. What is it? What's that game? Shooting? Call of Duty? No, what's the other one? Fortnite. Boom. There you go. It's like hours, man. Bah. Right? They fall in love with the girls on the characters. They make it very appealing, isn't it? Do you think the person who's making this game, when he codes that, do you think he didn't think about it? Well, they think about it, trust me. Because they know that that desire is going to make you come back. And you might not even realize it. Because in your subconscious, you're being triggered, but you don't even know. When you walk in the mall, what do they use? They want to sell something? Even to the girls, they will use beauty and desire. To the men, they want to sell. I mean, subhanAllah, today you want to sell a phone, you got a tire. What does a tire have to do with a woman? A car tire, man. It's got like a woman next to it. A ranch or something like that. They'll put a woman on it. Because they know what they're doing. They know exactly, they've studied human psychology and they know how the desires react. Right? They know what will get our attention. And by the way, so far, for the longest time, it was thought that there's a big difference between men and women in the way they have desire. Well, guess what? Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَيْسَ ذَكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, in many ways. But the woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, like, can women have like wet dreams, for example? And the Prophet ﷺ confirmed that. Explained to her. You know, till recently, I'm sorry, I'm being very, till recently, a lot of times female, desire was not understood. And the females are better at hiding it or conserving it. But it's on both sides. It's on both sides. And sadly, because our society has gone so far away from the Sunnah, again, you should get married, but you don't. You should get married, but you have to get your degree. How many engineers in the room? Any doctors? IT? Yeah. Okay, so then you get your degree. What happens after, guys? What you got to do? You get a job. But you cannot get a job till you build some experience, huh? At least 2 years of experience. Okay, so let's say 4 years plus 2, that's 6. After you get the experience, then you got to get a job. And you got to get a decent paycheck so you can get the house and the furniture. Right? Because no one's going to marry you to their daughter unless you got some furniture in the house, yeah? Got to have a bed in there, isn't it? I don't know, any Egyptians here? No Egyptians? Oh, there's Egypt. There's something about the furniture, right? It has to be mafrusha, eh? Gotta have to be, gotta be furnished. So, that's a long time, man. What happens in this time? Everyone fasts Mondays and Thursdays? Come on, guys. The reality is that you should, but do you? And the reality is that most people don't. And they will take out their desires one way or another. And not everyone, will have dreams and all this stuff. This is the reality. The problem is that we cover it, of course, but then it reaches a point where people fall into bigger problems. That's why when parents come to me and seek advice, don't quote me on this one, but I'm okay, I'll take responsibility. My personal advice, personally, in North America, for example, and it's happening now more and more, that young people are getting married and their parents are helping them. even before university, and they go into university together. So there's agreement between the families. So there'll be like almost like a halal dating type of thing, you know? It's like you make the nikah, maybe you don't live together, or you live together, but the parents kind of sponsor it, and they sponsor the studies, and the husband and wife, they study together in the same program sometimes, or different, but in the same university. They study together, they are together, and it does help. And the parents are saying, you know what, enough of this, because they suffer, and sometimes too late. You know, when I used to speak like this like 15 years ago, parents used to come and say, bro, I don't think this is right, and stuff. And then 5 years later, they come to my office and they're crying, and they said, Sheikh, my son has done this. And I'm like, and how long did you wait? Well, I thought that he gotta get a job, and he gotta get some, experience, and because that's how we were brought up, But the reality is, you cannot project your own experiences onto your children, because their lusts are different. Their fitan that are surrounding them are totally different these days. So they come and cry in my office. And you know what? Fast forward another 5 years or 10 years till today, when parents come to my office today and say, brother, Sheikh, we have a problem. My daughter is in love with a guy. I don't know what to do. I say, Alhamdulillah, we can solve that. Problem is, when they come and tell me my daughter's in love with another girl, and it's a problem, and they want to get married, and they want to have children, and I asked them, how do you want to have children? I asked them, wallahi, and they say, adopt. They have all the answers ready, because they're being primed. Because guess what? We're not having any bodies or any abilities or ways or channels for us to talk about these things, or to satisfy these things in a halal way. But the enemies of Islam are coming up with all kinds of organizations to push more and more and more. They'll give you all the answers. They'll make you choose a label. There's a lot of letters that they put in this LGBTQ, XYZ, X squared, all kinds of stuff. I know it's problematic, but they are pushing the agenda, and I'm telling you, I'm on the battlefield, and it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. Why? The question is why. It goes back to this. It goes back to this. Trust me, no separation, no wall is ever going to be able to stop it. We thought it does. It doesn't. Because if you don't build education, taqwa, tarbiyah, you can build as many walls as you want. You can put on as many niqabs as you want, and as many beards as you want. In the end, it's not going to do anything unless this changes. Niqab is very important, hijab is very important, beard is very important, salah is very important, siyam is very important. Actually, these are the basics that we shouldn't even be discussing who does and who doesn't. But the reality is, the heart is not there. If the tarbiyah is not done properly, people will either jump the fence or just stay nicely on their own side, and no one cares, no one knows what happens. Who's going to question two guys holding hands and two girls holding hands? No one. We're just studying that. Brothers, sisters, I'm not talking about stories. I'm talking about my experience. I've been a teacher for years. I've been a school principal for years. Like, I deal with these things day in and out. In the end, what's the problem? This. Desires, lust. It's in everyone. The question is, how do you channel it to halal? Marriage. But it's closed. It's closed. They don't allow it. Done. You have to wait. Okay, fast. Okay, we should have them. What other ways? Guys, girls. Okay, what if you fall into problems? Let's say you cannot. I don't have the means, people will say. Depends what you want to marry. People find all kinds of excuses. Okay, you don't have the means. What happens when you fall into these problems? Who do you go to? Who will help you? Who will guide you? People get depressed. Big thing in Malaysia to cut your your wrists with the X-Acto knives, you know, to release stress and pressure and all this, you know, because people are stressed. People are committing suicide. Why? What's going on with our culture, with our nation, with our ummah? This is the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is ummah wasat. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس. You're supposed to be amongst all people a witness, but we are suffering and we're covering it. We don't want to talk about it. The vacuum is empty, gets filled by internet, Google, porn, Dr. Phil, blah blah blah, I don't know what, late night shows, memes or whatever, all kinds of, you know, funny things, social media. But it's the reality. Yes, our scholars are advising us to fear Allah, but then we need more support. We need places to turn to, solutions, practical solutions. The Prophet ﷺ never gave only theoretical solutions. He never left his community on theory. It was always about practical solutions and how to deal with these things. So, if you ask me right now, what are the top lusts that we are dealing with, that you are dealing with, and I know in university, okay, I'll tell you, of course, is number one is the issue of sleep. Okay, sleep a lot, huh? Or you're studying too much? Girls and boys, of course. And wallahi, when parents come to me and tell me my daughter is in love with a boy, I'm a bit relieved, because I can work with that. I can work with that. We can try to solve it. So boys and girls, boys and boys. But I don't find Malaysia such a big problem as I found the Arab countries. I'm not insulting anyone right now. I lived there for 10 years as a teacher, and man, it's a big issue. Girls and girls is big in Malaysia, huge. It's a big problem. Every time I go to the mall, I see, hijabi sisters with the little boy cut type of Chinese girl. I'm not insulting anyone here, please forgive me. Okay, boy cutish, looking like a boy type of girl, holding her hand and protecting her like she's her girlfriend, and they are girlfriends. And I've double checked, triple checked, quadruple checked this and cross-referenced all the way, and even asked some of them, and they're very open about it. That's the interesting part about it. So these lusts are there. Okay, now another one, pornography. It's huge, it's rampant. And see, the thing is with human beings is that the excitement gets reduced, the stimuli gets reduced, so then we need more things, more weird, and slowly the culture changes. And we've been tracking this. It used to be just something normal, and now it's gone to certain extents that you cannot even imagine of what people like to see and what like to watch. Because the way the brain works, the brain fires, the neurons fire and strengthen based on the exposure and the stimuli. And sometimes once you've exposed it too much to the stimuli doesn't react the same way. It becomes weaker, so you need something more extreme. So people start doing things, and of course the enemies of Islam are there to reinvent and invent new things. That's a huge thing. Drugs and alcohol is a big problem. Okay? On campus it is, I know, and you all know that it happens. So you're being called from every single part. And the worst one, and the final blow, and you have to understand, shaitan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Don't follow steps of shaitan. Shaitan doesn't strike you, doesn't give you his best punch, doesn't want to knock you out. He throws a lot of jabs to soften you, you know. Throws a lot of jabs, jab, then he KOs you. So he'll throw porn, he'll throw this, he'll throw that, the last one that's hitting us is apostasy. People are leaving Islam. Why? Because you see, the more desires you have on your plate and you cannot express them, you cannot channel them, you cannot take them out in a halal way, we close the halal doors. Close, 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 close. And mashallah, I know your parents and my parents and our parents, they expect us to be angels. Away from home, they trust us. But the reality is different. So we close all the doors of halal and then we expect to be what? To do what? The Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which were the best nation to walk on this earth. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. The best nation. Some of them fell into zina. You know that, right? You guys know that? Yes. Alcohol? Yes. Abu Mahjan was an alcoholic. It's true. It's in the hadith. It's reported. They're better than us, guys. Better than us. A lot better than us. So, how do you deal with this? We close all the gates. And this is calling you from every side. And then it's silence. We don't know how to deal with it. We stop. We cannot go to anyone. It's an issue. My advice is always that, don't let it reach the last step. Because what happens is when you build all that desire or the shahawat, you start doing the haram, shaitan is very smart. He'll try to tell you that there's no hope for you. There's no hope for you out of this. And then he'll send one of his soldiers to tell you, but there's no problem, bro. It's only Islam that tells you that this is haram. Why are you putting yourself to this? How many people have left Islam because of this? Because of course, the nafs al-lawama, the blaming, self-reprimanding nafs, it makes you feel bad when you commit a sin, right? But through more and more exposure to that, slowly it goes down, 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 down. كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Rana is going to be built, this iron cover on your hearts, and then it's not going to feel anymore. So the shaitan, in the end, he wants to give you the final shot to say, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing actually. I had one of my best friends praying Fajr in the first line every day, even riding his bike in snow to pray Fajr. And his non-Muslim brother caught him on that because he had some problems with this. And then his brother said, bro, why are you feeling so depressed and guilty? You're not sinning. It's only Islam that tells you that you're sinning. And he said, yeah, why am I feeling? Why the heck am I doing that? Why should I feel bad? Let me leave Islam. And more people are leaving Islam. In the Muslim world, in the Arab world, here in Malaysia. Because that's, in the end of the day, shaitan could care less about your sins. I mean, it's just what? Step by step. But he wants to get you in the end, the real final blow. To hit you hard. This is the reality. He wants you to make kufr, shirk, leave Islam. And that's why. As Allah says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِي الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not ever give up on the hope, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't despair. Allah forgives all sins. At least keep it in mind, no matter what state you are in your life. If you cannot channel this in the halal way, because all the doors sadly have been closed by our self-righteous society, mashallah. Sadly. If you cannot do that, channel it in halal way. Okay? And if you cannot find someone that you can talk to and give you proper advice, like the Prophet ﷺ used to do, because we think we're better than the Prophet ﷺ, astaghfirullah, and we have deviated from his way, from the sunnah, Sunnah is more than miswak, guys. It's more than these things. Wallahi. These are important things, but there's so much more that we are ignoring. Because فَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ. We pick and choose. We like to debate. Brother, where should you put your hand in prayer? Boom, 10 hours on the internet. This guy's kafir. He didn't follow the way. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni salli." You know, see, and you're kafir now. You disobey the. Yeah, it's very important, guys, to pray and to follow. But man, we have other things as well. We have other. I'm not putting anything down, but we have other things. So if you cannot find that person to help you, and I really suffer because we don't have, it's not that easy to find someone that you can feel comfortable with to go and say, bro, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I need help, without being chopped. So you cannot find this, you cannot do that, you cannot that. At least in the end, remember that Allah is always there for you. At least remember that Islam is the key to Jannah. At least remember, من كان آخر كلامه لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. No matter what happens in your life, don't ever give up on your deen. No matter what status you are. Like Yunus alayhi salam was in the belly of the whale, in the lowest of the lowest. He said, لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. Don't ever give up on Allah. No matter what happens, no matter how many of these things scream at you, come here, come do this. No matter what you do, don't ever, لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. Don't despair of Allah's mercy. Till we solve and try to fix these things and channeling in the halal way and having the ability to have consultants and people who help you, to talk to you, you can turn to, till we are the community, the people, the educated, the ulama, the du'at, till we find these and solve these issues. Remember that Allah is always with you. Allah is always with you. But as for those who need help, as I said, like I've kind of dedicated my life to this. There's other brothers who are also doing it, alhamdulillah. So there are some people slowly starting. Slowly people are realizing that, hey, we got to talk a little bit more about our differences in salah. We got to talk more about than fiqh, ikhtilaf in fiqh, which is important. I'm not putting it down. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not the type of person who says, let's just ignore all these things and just, no, important. But this is also very important. Because while we're perfecting our salah and the makharij of the huruf, we're losing our souls. And as Imam Malik said, there will come a time when you perfect every harf, but it's not going to go past. We have competition of reciting and singing the Quran, but man, it's not reaching. So don't ever leave. Islam is the stronghold. Islam is your protection. Stay strong in it. And remember, Salah. Salah is, one of the best deeds you can do. And of course, in al-hasanati yudhibna as-sayyiat. Good deeds erase bad deeds. No matter what happens, always rush to make wudu, rush to pray salah, rush to make tawbah. And that's why I end with the same boy that came to the Prophet ﷺ. After they prayed, what did he say to him? Who knows? What did he say to that young man who almost committed zina? He said, call that boy back. He said, did you pray with us now? Right? He said, don't you know that Allah forgives what happens between the salah? Yeah? Remember this, yeah? Don't give up the salah. Stay. Pray. Go for boys, go for fajr, jama'ah. Push yourself. 27 times more reward. You need it. We all need it. One is not enough. I don't think so. Yes, Allah gives us for each mistake one. And for each hasanat, He multiplies. But if we go one for one, man, then we're left to our performance. But if we try a little bit more, then we are in Allah's mercy. So, never give up. this is the last message that I can give you. So we solve these issues, but alhamdulillah, there is some effort. I am counseling people. People are coming to me because of the experience, because of the position that I work in. I've worked with different communities around the world. If anyone wants to connect with me, you can connect through me. Inshallah, I can on social media. It's easy, inshallah. GALROMAANI. G Al Romani. GALROMAANI. Okay? You'll find my Instagram, you'll find my Facebook, and you'll find some lectures that are like. Right now, I just finished today a series on lesbianism. I know you'll find some gharib, some strange things on my thing, but I guarantee you that it's worth it to check it out. And I do respond to people, and I consult them and help them. I don't know who you are, what's your thing. Most people, it's very confidential, and it works on. So GALROMAANI. G Al Romani, or Gabriel Al Romani, also on Facebook. You'll find it. If you Google it, my name, I think it's also on the flyer. So if you want to reach out to me with anything, I can try to help you, or at least direct you towards the correct people, inshallah. That's it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and protect you. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
First of all, Jazakallah khair to the speaker. I have a few written questions, and I'll be giving priority to the written questions, obviously, because of the awkwardness behind the title. And I have received a lot of amazing questions. But first off, we'll start off with the live questions. Do the sisters have any questions they'd like to ask the speaker directly?
No?
No. So I'll start off with a question I have over here. The questioner says, I don't know why, but I am attracted to girls. I, however, firmly accept that it is haram and will never fall into it. May Allah keep guiding me. But because of this, I am extremely afraid of men and getting married to a man, so I'm very picky in choosing from the potential people my parents tell me about. What should I do? Can't I just stay unmarried since I
attracted to both? Allah knows best. But the sister I'm dealing with right now is a full-out lesbian, and she lived as a lesbian before Islam. When she found out about Islam, she converted to Islam, and she married. She married, and she's been living married for 15 years while having these desires. And her husband knows very well about it. She was very open about it to him, and he's very understanding, and they protect each other. And she expresses her frustration, her desires, and how hard it is. And the same kind of thing as she reminds herself with Allah, and it's a big test for her. But I think the fact that she has acknowledged it, that she has someone to support it, and she does say that the marriage did help her. Number one, the guy that she married was a friend. Okay. Number two, she does acknowledge that she developed feelings for him. And you have to understand, there's no one who's born this way. There's a trigger sometimes in your formative period that can push this. And I'm not saying that the sister, but amongst these triggers is number one, abuse. Okay, a lot. For example, this sister was raped when she was young by men, so she could not think of men ever in that way, right? However, this man was such a nice guy that she really felt comfortable, and she actually fell for him, and her emotions changed. Now she still has desires for women, but it shows, number one, that things change, emotions change, desire change, because the brain changes. You have to understand the brain is not static. It's very malleable. As well as sexuality, and there's many studies to show that. That is why when a lot of times men or women go to jail, they come out sometimes with a different sexuality because of what they've been exposed to. This is established. Another thing that you have to understand, another case or other cases that when we've identified, pornography changes sexuality. So some of the sisters, for example, report, or brothers, that they were exposed to, but sisters, because that type of genre of porn is a bit more popular, but the sisters were exposed to, for example, the first thing they've seen in their life when it comes to sex was lesbian sex, because they got their tape from their brother or father or something like that, and they reported that because of that was the first, it was such a deep impact in what they've seen that it shaped their sexuality. So there's a lot of things that can link to that person. No one is born like this. Get it out. There's a lot of people there who are trying to make that and trying to say there's studies, correlations, DNA, genes and all that. All this is propaganda. Okay, there's nothing like that established. There's fitna that can happen. It's triggered by something, usually in the formative stages, the younger stages, where identity, personality is still being shaped. There's a shock that comes in that might be very light. Even an exposure of a minute can change someone. So I always advise parents to be careful of who they leave their children with, and that's why the Prophet also said be careful who you befriend, because a lot of times it's friends that bring in from their older brothers, sisters, this and that. So going back to what you should do, I do believe that marriage is important, but it should be someone who understands you. If you hide it sometimes and you have no way of expressing or talking about it, it becomes very difficult. Sometimes it will happen, like today I was dealing with, one issue where, subhanAllah, the husband was at work and the woman was cheating on her husband with another woman. And no one questions that because it's a woman going to visit her friend, right, at home. So it can lead to a lot of problems. So yeah, you might think you don't have desires now, but that can change, okay, as you advance. But do understand that your emotions, your desires can change. And women are very different than men when it comes to this. Again, if there's no trauma or nothing happened with men, a lot of times it's just curiosity, a lot of times it's just, thoughts or certain exposures, the culture. These stimuli sometimes you cannot even identify. They're so subtle. Things that you've seen in a movie, someone has said something about something, it can really, really hit hard. And you won't even know it. So subtle. And then you wonder yourself, why am I doing this? But as I said, in general, women, because there's no threat to their femininity to that extent, it happens a lot more. Guys, because there's a threat to their masculinity, I'm sorry, I'm being very frank here, because there's intercourse, okay, it's a lot more, doesn't happen as much. It used to be thought, even though the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the qawmulut, okay, and a lot of times, subhanAllah, sister will say, yeah, it talks only about a man. No, it applies to both. It applies to both. And trust me, that city wasn't born, all of them were gay. Okay? It spread and they developed. And that's what you have to understand. It does spread. But even the hukum of the man with men is different than the hukum of the woman with woman in the Sharia. Okay? Because of the lack of intercourse. But what I'm trying to say, because the woman is very comfortable with other women, because she's been raised at her mother's breast, she has that feminine, connection to her mother. So a lot of times you'll see women go into the bathroom holding hands together. Guys don't go to the bathroom holding hands together. It doesn't work. A lot of times you see women saying she's so pretty, she's so attractive, she's so hot. Guys don't say, oh, he's so hot. We don't, right? Come on. No. We might say, mashallah, he's handsome. But we never, but women have that. And there's a lot of hypersexualized media that always portrays. So for women, if they want to buy lingerie, what they're gonna see a woman. It's always woman. The woman's beauty is always exploited. Guys love that, of course, but now women are starting to notice that as well. And there's a huge increase in that. And I recently, there was a study that I done with 51 Muslim women about them watching lesbian porn, and they still identified as heterosexual. So there is a huge, actually, spike in the usage of and women being interested in this. One of the reasons is, to be honest, and I'm so sorry, but a lot of guys are losers. And they cannot find proper guys. I'm so sorry. This is the reality. In the world right now, there's no real, very difficult to find example of real men. Give me an example of a real Muslim guy right now, today, that you guys really look up to. Please. Honestly, be honest. Give me someone that you say, this is a real man that I want to look up to. Even the sisters, give them one guy they can be like, wow, he's really hot. They usually look for what? Like Aquaman and like what, Thor and all these guys, right? This is what they look for. The non-Muslims. Ronaldo. Honestly, come on guys, do we have? I mean, the closest that something gets to like around really showing some masculinity is like Ertugrul, right? Even though it has its problems, right? But I mean, that's like, other than that, we don't have. It's very difficult. Masculinity is being killed, right? In the name of toxic masculinity and all these things, right? Guys are very, like we're dogs and, you know, all kinds, you know. We've been labeled so many things. So it's been hit so hard that if you are masculine, people don't like it. You're chauvinist, you're all kinds of stuff. So they want you to be more feminine. And it's happening. And if you're a man, a real man, people are not happy. But then, subhanAllah, later on, people are like, oh, but why am I not happy? Well, because you're married to a woman. Of course, you're not going to be happy. You don't have a real man next to you. If you don't know what a real man, we might as well go for it. If he's also like not so good and doesn't have financial, he doesn't have good manners. He's not so. I mean, he might be a bit sensitive, but he's not really a gentleman. Then he might as well. They justify like, well, my girlfriend is more man than him. And that is why, mark my words, guys and girls. And that's another thing that we're studying and looking at. Why do a lot of women, they go for, when they do date women, they'll go for a woman who looks like a guy. Has a boyish haircut, behaves like a guy. In the West, we call them butch or studs. And even this sister that was, for example, answering this question I was interviewing, she said that that's what she was dating. She was dating girls, but that look like men and act like men. And they say if she ever attempted to play the man role, she would be chastised by her boy, girlfriend, whatever. So this is confusion. To me, this is not sexuality problem. This is confusion. People are confused about this and how to channel it and what to do. But because we're killing masculinity, the women are looking around, so what does a real man look like? It's very difficult. Just if you grow a beard, just if you have facial hair, it doesn't make you a man necessarily. It's one of the things, but it's not necessarily the only thing. There's a lot more. There's a state of mind. And that's why I always say, actually, we have a course called the Muslim Alpha Men, teaching men how to be real men. And we go through a checklist of the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ as what did they used to do. For example, guys today, they know how to fight, man. I know violence, but see, this kind of talk is like coming from the non-Muslims. And subhanAllah, but they love UFC, They love to see each other bashing each other, right? And sports, contact, football, rugby, yeah. But when a guy says, I want to learn how to fight. Oh, no. You're becoming extra masculine, toxic masculinity. Man, and then you walk on the street with your wife, and the guy comes and smacks you. And you can't do anything. And then what do you think your wife's going to look like? There was a study recently that was done, and they asked, what would you do if you walk with your wife, holding hands on the street, and someone comes and spits in her face? You know what most guys said? About 80% of guys said, we would assess if he had a good day or a bad day. Are you kidding me? I would assess which leg I would use to backspin kick him. Honestly. Another study. Handshake. The pressure of a handshake of a male used to be 115 pounds. It is 95 now. 50 years ago it was 115. It gone down. A woman used to be 70. Now it's 90. Women are changing. Men are also changing. Testosterone levels are at an all-time low, which means men cannot perform properly. Causes problems. This is a basic of the fitrah. It's a right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving. That's why it's called nikah. One of the first objectives of marriage is the relationship. And that's horrible, man. Then you're lost. Not to mention that we don't know, we don't talk, we don't understand. Umar Khattab went to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, hey, like they talked about certain things. I don't know, I cannot maybe say it here. But he expressed himself as to how and what. And when we know, they reached Medina, there was a debate about position. I mean, I think if they're shy, the shyest people will be the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman. But they discussed these issues because they understood what it means, what it does to the marriage. And today people are suffering. And not to mention, of course, the exposure to pornography and the distortion of what this should be look like. People are lost. People are lost. So again, to the sister, I would say, yes, find a good man. Or maybe you just didn't find yet the right man. And of course, today, because of the separation between sex and emotions, because of, again, media and pornography, right? There's no more love. We used to call it making love. Now it's called sex. Because there's no more feeling, there's no more falling in love. There's no more, and even that, even the way we are doing it, the way we are marrying, the way we are looking for spouses is sometimes totally wrong. And not according to Sunnah. It's not natural. So people cannot find someone because there's a connection. It's not just about two bodies rubbing each other. It's about a connection, a spiritual connection. And you cannot do it with everyone. Trust me. That right person has to come. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written it 50,000 years before everything was created. And maybe, sister, you didn't find that person yet. So be careful. There's a difference between confusion and being confused, desires which have so many different inputs from different things. There's a lot. And especially in that young stage where things are still very easily shapeable. Once you reach your 30s and so on, it becomes more solid. But before that, sorry, go ahead.
What steps should I take to stop watching/reading porn, even though I use block site app, etc.?
Blocking doesn't work. We all know VPNs, right? Everyone knows the VPN. It's there. Blocks are just, people just kind of playing around and making money. See, pornography is an addiction. The studies show that it's like, because dopamine is released as a neurotransmitter, they've equated it to your brain on cocaine or dope. It literally has the same effect when you watch porn. Problem is, again, of course, what happens is the initial exposure usually happens from friends or by mistake. Then there's a very short time in which you can get addicted. Of course, by now, the truth is that most people have seen it. Say 90% of men watch it on a regular basis, about 60% of women now. And of course, it's always associated with self-pleasure. It's not just watching it. So when that happens, that association, your brain is building and reacting, and it builds more addiction. So it's very difficult actually to get rid of pornography. Of course, it didn't exist at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, okay? However, there was some practices by the Romans and the Greeks where people would watch people perform live. Okay, so this is like medieval pornography, you want to call it. But what do you do to stop? Usually, of course, number one is you have to remind yourself of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, yeah, usually you do it in private, you close everything, no one can see you, but Allah sees you. Remember that first and foremost. Okay, that's the first advice. Now, this, remember, say what we should, and we all aware of that, but of course our iman is not as high, so a lot of people fall into this sin. So what do you do now if you fall into the sin? Because it is an addiction, you cannot stop. An addiction means like you're gonna go to it every day, or every so many other days, or you'll come into a period of coming back to it. Number one, understand the causes. The effects. You're literally frying your brain. Go to a site called yourbrainonporn.com to read some of the articles. It's a non-Muslim site, but it has academic research on what happens when you are exposed to porn. One of the things is that you're going to destroy your sexual life later on when you get married. So most men will suffer from erectile dysfunction. They'll not be able to perform, because the mind will react only to a 2D. And they've done studies to this. Like the famous Playboy owner, he was so into it that he could not, you would think that this guy is like the king. He would need to watch. So a lot of the men cannot perform, and of course that destroys marriage. So what happens, a lot of guys addicted to porn will marry a girl from, mashallah, who's protected, maybe from back home, and destroy her life and put her in big fitna. And vice versa. It happens to the girls too. Girls are a bit different, obviously, because they don't have, that same issue, but the way their mind, even that can affect. So it destroys you, it destroys your future, relationship, and it distorts, because you have to understand these are scripted things, they're not real. So what happens is people go into marriage believing that this is going to be how it's going to happen. I'm going to have a star. And then you're like, oh my God, it doesn't work like that. Like recently I was dealing with a case where the brother literally couldn't perform the night of his marriage. And the sister was shocked. And sadly she went and told her mom, and then her mom went and told everyone, and it became a very embarrassing thing. And then I offered some solutions to him, and he's like, nah, it's too embarrassing. I said, bro, you want to perform or not? You're not a man if you don't perform, man. Guys are always about pleasing themselves. They don't think about the woman. Idfa' billati hiya ahsan. You have to take care of your wives. It's not always about the guy. But some guys don't care. But there's issues. Or another case that the sister came and said, like, my future husband is asking me to watch porn with him on my marriage night. To watch it together on my marriage night. So this thing develops into problems. So understand the outcomes of watching this. It will destroy you. Sooner or later it will destroy both men and women. Because women are also having a problem being satisfied, because what they see and what they understand, and the mind changes and they think that's what they're going to get. A guy is not really at that level. So then of course imagine living a life where you're not pleased. It's tough. It will lead to looking for things elsewhere. So yeah, even married people, they continue watching it because that's the only way they can actually please themselves, because they've been addicted. So understand the negative impacts of it. Seek help. Look for a professional helper who deals with this, and there are, and try to get away from it. And best thing is never allow yourself to be alone with a gadget that you can watch this stuff on. I always advise parents, if they don't get phones for your kids, if there's a computer in the house, let it be in the main room in the living room, so if anyone does any research, they don't sit in their house. You know, this whole concept of like privacy is my privacy. Bro, there's no such thing as privacy when you live in my house. There's no such thing. Privacy is when you go to the bathroom and you're not taking a phone with you. There's no such thing. You don't allow your kids to have that. You guys, and I work with a lot of people who are your age, because you guys can at least, if you fall into it or if you've gotten this problem, at least you can protect your children when you're going to have children. Learn from this. Don't allow any time for your children to be alone with people, including family members. Most of the abuse comes from cousins and uncles and stuff like that. Please take, I'm not saying be, psycho about it, but be careful. Don't allow your children to have these gadgets or to have a computer in the house or laptop. We just give them these things, keep quiet. You go to restaurants and they give you an iPad, kid is like, and was playing some game, we're all suffering. I'm suffering. I hate this stuff, man, but we're addicted. I'm addicted to it. So you guys are future parents. You guys can still work at prevention, because damage control is very difficult. Damage control is very difficult. Protect your children. At least the next generation hopefully will not. That's part of my work, is to warn the next generation and they don't fall into this thing. So don't be alone with this thing. Don't go to somewhere where you're alone. Try to help be with someone. Try to help someone. Fast. Focus on studies. Focus on ibadah. And without a doubt, and I always say, at least if your parents don't see it the same I do, at least you guys, when you're going to have kids, man, don't let your kids grow too old before they get married. It's okay. Let them live with you for a few years. Let them study together. Marry them early. Wallahi, it's not worth that to sit on the Day of Judgment. Allah ask you, what'd you do? Oh, but he didn't get his PhD. What PhD, man? 4 years undergrad, 2 years masters, 4 years PhD. And then what? You lost. Come on, by 30, if you're not married, come on, man. From the time you hit puberty at 12 or 13 till 30, oh man, that's like 17 years. What do you do? It's tough. It's tough. At least you guys try to. In some communities in America, Canada, people have woken up, man. And they say, you know what? Yeah, we'll allow them. We'll help them. I, as a father, I'll pay the rent. I will give them money. Go study together. Be in university together. Hold hands. I don't care. Take your desires on each other. I don't care. I'll provide that. I will facilitate it. But at least I know that Allah on the Day of Judgment will not ask me, wait a second, you made it difficult for them. So, but when it comes to porn, as I said, just know yourself when you are watching it. What are the situations? Try to keep away from that. Seek some professional help. There's people who can counsel you, who can help you, and understand the damage, man. Understand the damage. If you know you're gonna walk towards a cliff, you're not gonna walk towards it because you know what's gonna happen. You're gonna die. Understand that. The problem is that we're so used to it that we feel it's like nothing. It's nothing because we don't see what actually goes on here, and we cannot predict what will happen when you get married. Really, do you want to have the most special night of your life to go horrible, to be a disaster?
Do the brothers have any questions they'd like to ask? Would the sisters like to ask any questions? I have a question over here that says, I have ended recently a relationship that lasted 2 years, but I suffer because of my feelings to that girl and can't stop thinking about her. What is your advice for me to move on and forget about her?
Is this a woman again?
It's a guy asking about her.
A guy asking about her. You never know. I'm telling you. Okay, so alright, so it's tough, and that's what I usually advise the people that I work with, especially the young ones who are involved in different relationships. Like today I had a case, and I really asked, I said, you guys, I can guarantee you, you're not going to be together a year from now. Most people have moved on in their life So, alhamdulillah, they were able to get out of it. Feelings and emotions cannot be controlled sometimes. They go with time. But behavior can be controlled. You know? لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah doesn't burden you more than you can handle it. So, it's tough, I know. It's sad, I know. Maybe you have someone I don't know, who knows about it. You shouldn't expose yourself and your sins and all that, but sometimes, of course, talking about it helps. And that's why وَتَوَصَّوا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَصَّوا بِالصَّبْرِ. We should always advise each other. Always advise each other. Surah Al-Asr is very important. Advise each other in haqq, in goodness, in patience. A good friend is so important. Right? It's like the maker of oud. You will always get something good from him or from her. That's why the Prophet ﷺ told us, Al-Mar'u ala dini khalil, that the person is on the deen or the way of life of his friends. So take always good friends with you. Let them advise you, help you. It's tough. It's tough. Emotional support is very important. That's why I said a lot of times we don't have ways to who to turn to. So first and foremost, of course, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wake up for qiyam. Do your salah. When you are in sujood, talk to Allah. Tell Allah how you feel. Tell this has been a tough time. You've sinned. Recognize your mistake. Ask Him to help you to remove this from your heart. It's very important. As I said, when you don't have anyone, and anyway, first we should always turn to Allah. Talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We always just pray, and sometimes we don't know what we pray. That's why there's dua. Dua, you can talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even sujood, the Prophet said, this is the closest to Allah. Ask Him what you want. Talk to Him. Express, pour your heart out. Sometimes we pray, but just Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal, that's it. No, there are so many other du'as, and the Prophet said more. Go more. Use your own words. Use what your heart feels. Because the problem is, again, we've become so rigid in the way we pray and we do Islam that we've deviated from the Sunnah. We are making bid'ah. We are away from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. In the way they used to feel. It's not only in the way you move. Their heart, the Sunnah of the heart. How they used to cry, how they used to feel. Why we don't feel? Because we're just like robots. And we're taught like that. Do this, do that. This is wrong. But nothing is built inside. No tarbiyah. There's no tarbiyah. There's no emotional and spiritual development, which is the basic. يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. That day when money and children, all these things, physical things, will not benefit, but someone who comes to Allah with a pure, clean heart. What is that? Nothing will benefit you if the heart is not there. Now, anyone here can claim they have a pure heart? No, but we struggle, we try, we fight. And that's why, Ibn Qayyim says that most of the world, there's three types of heart. It's the heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protected. These are ibadullah al-mukhlasin, the real chosen servants of Allah, that they're just mashallah. You find them sometimes, they're so rare. These people are just amazing, They have an aura of like piety and righteousness, and they are. It's not just a show. And then you have the dead hearts. And most of the ummah, he says, are the ones in between, fighting all the time. Sinning, repenting, sinning, repenting, sinning, repenting. Always in between. So we never give up though. We never give up. So ask Allah to help you. Stay away from the person, because you know that those emotions will push more. And ask Allah to protect you. And sometimes if someone knows about it, don't open up yourself with the sins and expose yourself. If it's already done, khalas. But if someone already knows, maybe sometimes talking or getting some advice helps. It helps.
Do the brothers have any questions?
If you want to write them, I don't know, you guys have a way to send them, right?
We do. We share the link on the...
Okay. I hear you. Yeah. I can hear you anyway.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that regarding... My name is Dalal, by the way. I'm a master's student and I'm from Pakistan.
Masters in what?
Finance from Pakistan. So I want to ask that you said that it's better if you get married as early as possible. So, but the thing is that coming from a family who has a family business back in Pakistan and all, so we're well to do, but the thing is that if you and my family is kind of Islamic as well, they want me to get married as early as possible, just after my degree or just right now, but I know for a fact that if I go home and get married to some girl or something like that, get engaged to her, that then that marriage would be financially, I would be looking at my family to support me for the wife, and I wouldn't like want my girl to be supported by the family. I would, because I think then back then like no one would respect me really. They would think that I'm getting financial backup from my family.
I understand.
I want to be respected from the girl and from myself as well.
I'm very familiar with the culture.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're talking about. However, you know that Khadija radiallahu anha, she supported the Prophet ﷺ financially? Was the Prophet ﷺ lesser a man or embarrassed? And he says it when he was asked about Khadija and who he loved. He said, and be careful here, brothers, pay attention, and sisters, because a lot of times culture pushes us, you know, like mashallah, sometimes the sisters are coming from a wealthy family and they're wealthy. The guy is miskeen a bit, you know, he's like not so, and then she says, no, you have to provide everything, I divorce you if not, all these things, you're not a man. And this, the Prophet ﷺ was the best man. Khadija radiallahu anha, not only did she support him financially, but his whole tribe for years, when they're boycotted in that valley, spent all her money on him. And he says that I loved her so much, she believed in me, she spent on me. So he was not embarrassed, bro. There's nothing wrong with sometimes the family helping or anything like that. If they're all in the same game, they understand the objective and the vision, which is to protect yourself, to save yourself. There's no embarrassment in that. And you are already, mashallah, working towards it. You have a master's, but it's something to be respected. You're educated, which means you've worked on it. If you would be a loser, a couch potato, sitting at home, you know, I would say, yeah, big problem. But you've done so much. So they have to respect that. And say, look, we're going to put our part, he's going to put his part. Later on, when he's in the right position, then he's going to help us. That's how it works, right? That's what family is about. And you know, in the Pakistani culture, usually when the parents retire, the kids start taking care of them, right? And that's why they educate themselves, they move on. There's the family joint, you know, community, living together sometimes. They take care of each other, right? So it's like a give and take. There's no embarrassment about that. But you need to, and remember, guys, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written the risk already. And He said, when you get married, then this risk increases. It increases through marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring risk through children. Don't ever feel that somehow by trying to do the right thing, you know, you're gonna be poor or something. Ash-shaytan ya'idukum al-faqr. He is the one. Shaitan tries to make you feel that you're gonna be poor by doing the right thing. He always threatens you with poverty. Oh, if you pay zakah, you're going to be poor. If you go here, you'll be poor. If you get married, you're going to be poor. No. No. But of course, don't marry a woman who expects you to be an ATM machine. You know, sadly, some people have certain requirements. I used to, when people come with that, I'm like, bro, are you selling your daughter or what? You know, it's very expensive. The mahar is $50,000 and the wedding has to be like this and the apartment like that and ta-ta-ta. It's like, okay, well that's, sorry. Doesn't work. So my advice to you is Allah will provide. You are taking the asbab. You are doing, you're studying, you're moving, you're here, you're working, you're doing things. Allah will do the rest, inshallah. Just do the right thing, bro. Don't delay. Don't delay.
If you have a follow-up question you want to ask? Do the brothers have any other questions? Do the sisters have any questions they'd like to ask? I have a question over here. It says, I want to get married, but I'm scared to go into marriage because I know a lot of divorce stories. I also don't want to get married because there's no man that I can find that suits my criteria. what would you say? Because I heard from unmarried women who are above 25, they regret not choosing to get married in their early years and choose to believe in being independent women back in early years.
Okay, how much time do you guys have? It's 10:49. Now we're getting into some really heavy stuff. I mean, this is like my specialty, my field. You guys have some time or you want to finish it? You guys have exam tomorrow? Class? No class? Great university.
It's up to them. They want to continue.
Okay, guys, see, there's an agenda behind in this world right now to destroy gender roles. By destroying gender roles, you're destroying the fitrah. And of course, through propaganda, these things are, you know, the repetitive effect in psychology where people keep repeating it through movies, songs, and so on. It becomes very attractive. People start believing it. The more I repeat something and you see it through different avenues, even if it's not correct, you will believe it. You will believe it. It's called conditioning. You'll be conditioned and slowly you will believe that it is correct. Slowly you believe it's correct. So there's an agenda that attacks the fitrah. The fitrah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created men to be men, women to be women, men to do certain things, women to do certain things. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. It doesn't matter. I know people, even today, someone called me a sexist or something like that, you know. And I was laughing. And I said, I could expect that from a non-Muslim, but even that I would debate and I would win that debate. I have no doubt about it. But when it comes from a Muslim, you get shocked. You get shocked. And it's very simple. You ask, are you Muslim? Yeah, I'm Muslim. Yeah, I believe in independent women and men. They have to be this and that. Okay, fine. So let's put that to a test. You know, let's put that to a test. The best women that were ever mentioned in the Quran are who? Asya, Maryam. Who else? Anyone else married? Mentioned? So Asya and Maryam. Were they like public speakers or business women or like independent women or something like that? They're not. I'm not saying that you should be, don't misunderstand me. I'm just trying to highlight something. Khadija radiallahu anha. People cite her example, she was a businesswoman, right? True. Okay. Was she out there and about? Dealing and debating and discussing and negotiating and claiming independence? No, she hired the Prophet ﷺ. That's why she would hire men to do the work. Yes, she had the inheritance that came from her previous husband and she was a wealthy woman, but she understood. Was she lesser of a woman? No. Can anyone claim that Maryam is not a real woman? No. I know you say society and things change, time change. Yes, but let's look around. Take a minute and look around in our culture and our society. Are we doing that well? With all this independence talk? Right now there's a reverse movement in women, as you mentioned, in their 40s who are regretting not marrying, regretting not having children, regretting not being a female that they've taken on the role of a man. They regret it so bad that they're actually putting a movement to educate women to say, girls, just be girls, for God's sake. That's how God created you. Just be women. Just be proud of being women. See, they fooled women that men and women should be equal. And when they've tried to be equal, then they realize that, my God, it's horrible. We don't want to be men. It's horrible. We don't want to put up with this stuff. It's against the fitrah. Allah, not everyone has to be a striker. Not everyone has to be a forward. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the two differently, so the two can be together. Problem is that they've been fooled that they can cross over. And people are suffering now. The ones who are admitting it, at least. The ones who are not admitting it, are still arrogant to continue, then that's a different story. But a lot of people are suffering. Divorce is high, over 50%. Over 50%. Suffering. So, yes, there should be earlier marriage. Yes, there should be gender roles. Yes, men are not like women. Women are like men. We can't be pregnant. We can't have the patience that women do to deal with the kids. This is a different thing. Women have their own special characteristics that Allah has created in them. They should cherish that. What more beautiful job than to nurture human souls? Imam Bukhari, how did he become Imam Bukhari? Because his mother. Imam Ahmed, who nurtured him? Who gave him tarbiyah? His mother. Women know how to train men as well, but if they take away from that position, if they made to feel that this is not good to be a mother, it's not good to be a wife, it's not good to do this. How? Through propaganda, because they give, all the women independent, throw your hands up in it, right? All these, songs and all that. And they push for that, and they're like, wow, it's so cool. It looks glamorous, amazing. The idea is cool, independent, being alone. And then they realize, like, oh man, it sucks. It's horrible. 40, no children. The hormones, the woman, her body desires, needs that closeness. She doesn't have it. Okay, you adopt. It's not the same, man. The DNA connects. It's not the same when it's your own. Yes, it can help. It's the Prophet ﷺ, his family took him. He was an orphan and so on. No doubt. But it's not the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made certain boundaries for a reason, guys. You move out of that, look around. There's more war now than ever. There's more divorce now than ever. There's more zina now than ever. There's more crime. Why? All this freedom that we have, right? It's one of the most cherished things in the world. Freedom. Everyone talks about freedom. Hurriya. Why are we still suffering? So women have gone their way, men have gone their way. Why is there suffering? Why they're not solving poverty and hunger and all these things? Because remember, it all starts from here. The man and the female, the male and the female, the man and the woman, they form the nucleus of the family. Is the building block of society, is the building block of the community, is the building block of the ummah and of the nation and of the universe. And if that is not healthy, the world is at chaos. And it is. I'm sorry, there's so much war right now. There's so much injustice. There's so many people being raped and killed. Why? There's so much freedom. We have everything. The world is free. Democracy is ruling. Come on, guys. Let's be honest. I'm not saying let's debate. Let's look at the evidence. Easy evidence. Not I need to outsmart you in a debate. Look and open your eyes. It's a good thing. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. We will show them our signs in the horizon in themselves till it is no doubt that this is the truth. Allah says it. Look around, guys. Open your eyes. You tell me, show me. Imagine if a football team, the goalie starts playing striker and the striker goalie. Imagine if Messi plays in goal. Can he play? Maybe. But man, they're going to score on him because he's the best at striker. But the team works together. Imagine if the coach gives water. He's a water boy. And the water boy becomes the coach. He could be, but one is more qualified. Can a woman be a businesswoman? Yes, she can be. But she's better qualified at other things. And wallahi, what's better than nurturing human souls? Is it haram to work? No. But what's the priority? What do you pay attention to? What's your first thing? How do you develop a system? Or maybe you can work. Maybe you have a skill as a woman. Yes, the Sahabiyat used to be nurses on the battlefield sometimes. And yes, like Nusayba or Hani and others sometimes they fought. But you have one or two or three examples. In general, the rule is that they didn't do that. In general, the rule is that they didn't do that. It was the man who did that. And the women took pride in what they did. They loved being feminine. They loved being taking care of kids. They loved taking care of the village. They loved taking care of the things that they took care of. And together they worked as a team. Today they're embarrassed. Because they are convinced by propaganda that you should be. And wallahi, I heard the sheikh talking recently that even they're better than men. Now it's not enough to be equal. Now they're going to be better. Okay. Remember, the only time you're better in the sight of Allah is through taqwa. Okay? Remember that. We're just different. We're just have different qualifications. We do things differently, better. Men do things better. Some things women do better. But in the end, Allah's words, الرجال قوامون على النساء. This is what it is. Men are responsible caretakers for women. Okay, men are leaders in the household, and there's a reason. It's a responsibility. It's not a privilege. That's how Allah puts it. So people need to understand that. And when that system is violated or broken, when that system is violated or broken, it causes problems. It causes problems in the world. And I advocate for women to return to their God-given roles and to perfect it and to be proud of it. Not to allow, other people to tell them that this is wrong and that they shouldn't be put down and this and that. It all depends how you see the cup, half empty or half full. It's up to you, the perception that you have of your role. But the evidence is clear, look around, it's clear. I believe that we're suffering because we deviated from what Allah has given us as the fitrah. And the fitrah, this is the system. You shortcut the system, it doesn't work properly, man. You put in 110 into 240, it's not going to work out. Or vice versa. It's going to shortcut. So it is important, and there's a big movement of women who regret it, and they're trying to educate women to wake up. Don't delay marriage. Don't think you can do this. Don't think you can do that. Work together. Be a family. Go back to that. Be a team. Understand your position. Be proud of what you're doing, because Allah gave it to you. I could talk about this a lot.
Would the brothers like to ask any questions? Would the sisters like to ask any questions? In Islam, is sex education encouraged? Should it be implemented in our school education system? Conservatives say it will encourage students to have premarital sex.
Good question. So, about sexual education, it needs to be addressed. But it needs to be done very carefully. In the end of the day, as I said, these desires come naturally. There's a vacuum that's empty. It will be filled. Schools will fill it. The internet will fill it. Curiosity of the children, of the students will fill it. So I do believe, yes, the Prophet ﷺ talked about it. Sahabas asked questions. It was not taboo, but there was respect in the way it was done, in the way they talked. But I believe that it can be done in certain ways. There has to be a certain system that's devised where students are taught. And the scholars of old, believe it or not, sadly I don't know how we reached this situation, because there are so many books, fiqh books, that talk about sex, that the scholars have addressed these issues. There's quite a lot in the previous eras, and I don't know how today in the 21st century, being such a free world, the Muslims are very shy of it. It's very taboo. The scholars have discussed, and there are specific books that are on sex. I have a friend of mine who's a Shafi'i scholar who's very specialized in, he's probably read all these books. He was studying in Saudi Arabia. He said, I spent a lot of time reading these books, you know. So he made it as a research, and he's very knowledgeable in it. I don't know how today we're like, the thing is, it's going to happen anyway. So you can either take halal chicken or you can take pork, you know. We want halal chicken. So learn the correct way. There's respect. Educators need to devise a curriculum, but I do believe, and I do it with my students, I do it. They get to ask questions, to write them on paper, so that, you know, they don't know who and what, so they avoid the shame, and they get educated. And sometimes we talk. I believe it's very important. Now, will it, see, you cannot like have this, okay, it's going to cause this or it's going to cause that. No, because when we educate them, it's not just about like inciting them. You have to be careful with the words and so on. But let's be honest, man, living in the 21st century, most of these kids, by the time they reach high school, they know everything. They can school us, you know. But a lot of times it's wrong information. So we want to do it in a polite way, in an educated way, in a halal way, in a clear way, but it has to be done. And then of course, as we said, there has to be ways of doing it halal, marriage and so on. But because we're closing all these doors, you know, it only happened in these century and previous century that we've restricted marriages. Marriages used to take place, your grandparents and my grandparents and their grandparents used to get married very early. And subhanAllah, there's a study that recently I read about women delaying marriage specifically, and because they don't get pregnant, there's a imbalance, a hormonal imbalance, and it affects their lifespan, it affects problems. There's a lot of problems that causes early menopause, a lot of issues, because it's against the fitrah. It deviates from the fitrah. And that's why a lot of people don't understand the concept of the marriage of the Prophet ﷺ to Aisha radiallahu anha, because they're like, what are you talking about? And people have come up with all kinds of garbage. The reality is she was a woman. She was a woman, because a woman is once a person can have a child, once a person is not a girl anymore. Once the menses come in, you are a woman. It's always been like that, thousands, if not millions of years. But people are sick in their mind today, you know. But this is the reality. So yes, I think it's very important to have sexual education in a halal way, in a proper way. I think it has to be done properly, curriculum, you know. That's why I call upon scholars and du'at to sit together and come up with this. People have expertise in this. And slowly, some people are realizing that it's a problem, because kids are just going wild. They're going wild, I'm telling you.
Last chance, any questions, brothers? Last question for the sister's side. Would you like to ask any questions? Okay. I think I'll end it with this one, inshallah. If a person loves a girl but is not in a situation to marry right now, what is the best step to be taken?
If a person loves a girl but is not in the situation to marry her right now, I mean, problem is that love don't come that easy, you know. And love is important, and the Prophet ﷺ talked a lot about love. We don't talk about it today. Somehow the Muslims are very far away. The Christians usually talk a lot about love. The non-Muslims, of course, everything is about love. But love is something you cannot control. It's an emotion. You can control your behavior. So obviously when you love someone, you're going to display certain behavior towards them, and that you need to take care of and be careful of, because it can lead you to haram. But it's very tough, because once, for those who know how it feels, once you're in love, is quite a paralyzing feeling. You cannot think straight. You're always thinking about that person. You're always like, daydreaming. You cannot focus on your studies. It's very, very, it's a very, very powerful emotion. It's a very powerful emotion. And I would say that when it comes to you, if it comes, and if you know it's true love, I'll say just take it. Just go, man up, go to your parents, be like, I want to marry, man. I'm in love. Because you don't know what's going to come again. Do the right thing. Islam does not stop you from it. Don't, I can give a million excuses why you shouldn't get married, but in the end of the day, these are just excuses. So I would say when love comes, if it's the right thing, and again, usually why wouldn't you marry? Finances, Allah will provide. You have family, talk to them. Why wouldn't you get married? It's not the right time. When is it the right time? When you're 40? The sister was mentioning about the criteria, depends what are you looking for, The sisters want Brad Pitt. Stuff. Brothers want, I don't know. What do they want? Who? Oh, he's there. Kim Kardashian? Huh? But again, these things are embedded into us, conditioned, right? But no doubt, you have your own, everyone likes certain thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Prophet ﷺ told that Sahabi, when he said, I'm going to get married, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, did you see her? He said, no. He said, go and see her. And in one story, even the Sahabi was hiding behind a tree and just kind of checking it out, It's just the niyyah is for marriage, so, don't be doing it too much, checking out. There's a word in Urdu for it. I'm not going to use it. I think the guy knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, just like, take one good look, and then move on, lower your gaze. But you should be attracted to that person. And a lot of people make this mistake. They think it's going to come out of nowhere. It's not. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, go make sure you see, so you can like. A lot of time people cite the hadith of, marry a woman for this reason. Taqwa is the most important right for a deen. Yeah, it is, no doubt. But understand the context. Understand the context. Because you might marry a woman with taqwa, or a guy with taqwa, but when you wake up next to them, it's a different story. And there's nothing wrong with being attracted to someone, as long as it's done in the right way. Pick someone you're comfortable with. So, but sometimes the standards are very, very high, and the people wait, delay, and those standards are not correct because they've been conditioned from the media and what they've seen, the movies. They want him to be like this one, like that one, and that person never comes, and it's not the correct thing. So, revisit your standards, and at the same time, I do believe that in general, in the ummah right now, we're suffering from a problem of taking care of ourselves, grooming and taking care of our fitness and our health, because we think somehow it's piety. It's not piety, guys. Okay, and the Prophet ﷺ used to take care of himself, and that's why the Sahabas used to say that we used to look at the Prophet ﷺ, we used to look at the moon, and we did not know which one's more beautiful, and the Prophet ﷺ was more beautiful than the moon. The Prophet ﷺ was beautiful. And we know Yusuf alayhi salam, how beautiful he was. And a lot of the Sahabas were described as handsome. And Imam al-Tirmidhi describes, has a Shamal al-Tirmidhi, a book about the look of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was a very handsome man. And even to the point that they say his chest was out and not his belly, right? So we need to take care of ourselves. It's not taqwa to not take care of your look and of your clothes and of your grooming. And the Prophet ﷺ would walk out and he would fix his beard, and you say when you see your friends, your ashab, wear a good thobe. But these things were not in the heart. A lot of people misunderstand the hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى أجسامكم ولا صوركم ولكن لا ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم. Allah doesn't look at your shapes or your forms or your, the way you look. It's misunderstood sometimes. The hadith says that this is not the most important thing. Understanding the concept and next to the hadith that Allah jameel wa yuhibbu jamal. Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. And the Prophet ﷺ used to take care of himself. You have to understand there's context is very important in mustalah al-hadith. When you study the science of hadith and understanding hadith, because you can quote one out of context and you can destroy something. So people think that it's taqwa and tawada and piety and righteousness to not look good or not be healthy and clean. When I mean look good, I'm not saying to cause fitna, but to take care of yourself. Brothers don't wear the same shirt or the same thing for 2-3 days. And yeah, I had a problem recently. A brother came and said, like, my wife don't want to hug me when I go home. She says, I smell. I said, well, why don't you change your shirt? But I like this shirt. I wear it 2 days in a row. Yeah, bro, but it's hot in KL, man. You don't smell yourself, but your wife will smell you. And he wondered why his wife don't hug him. So the guys have to take care of it. Mashallah, the non-Muslims, they understand, fitness and this. I'm not saying that you should become all crazy about it. But it's, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you this body as a amana, take care of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see the ni'mah of Him on His abd, as the hadith say. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Don't be fooled into this craze of people who are telling you that it's okay to look dirty, it's part of taqwa and piety and this. Because the Prophet Imam Ahmed, before he narrated hadith, he would go and change his clothes. And when he died, they found, tens of turbans in his house. Abu Hanifa the same. They understood the responsibility, especially when you're representing Islam. You have to take care of yourself. And this is from the fitrah. And that's not, you shouldn't. Omar Khattab sometimes, because of a certain reason, he had some patches in his thobe, but he was Khalifa at that time, and he was very, he was Zahid, he was into Zuhd. But again, argument is the Prophet ﷺ is first, as Abdullah bin Umar said to the people when they asked about Hajj and Umrah. And he said, yeah, but Abu Bakr and Umar did this. But he says, I fear that Allah will throw stones from the heaven on you, because I tell you, Qala Rasulullah ﷺ, you tell me Qala Abu Bakr Umar, with no disrespect. I'm just citing what Abdullah bin Umar says. First example is always Sunnati wa Sunnatul Khulafa Rashidin Mahdiyin. So first is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then we move on. Understand, guys, understand context, understand hadith, understand it's a science. People come and say, look what the hadith says, bro, with all due respect, you not study. You can't just take a translation of Bukhari and come and show the hadith, one hadith, because there's another 10 on the same topic. They need to put together. It's a science. It's like studying engineering. Me coming and telling you what circuits are or something like that. It's not like that. And the same with the sisters. The sisters think it's piety, and mashallah, the husband go home and the sister's waiting in pajamas. He's just faced 30,000 fitna outside in the workplace, and they go home and his wife is, it's not. People need to take care of each other. It's a team effort. It's together. Enjoy in goodness, in khair, and protect each other. I have no clue what the question was. Did I answer? Sorry, I want to. You forgot what he asked. Huh?
It was how should a person approach a sister? I think he asked feeding or something.
Yeah, so just marry her, bro. Bismillah. Istikhara, I'm doing a lecture this Saturday about to marry or not to marry, something like that. They call it. Like to be or not to be. That is the question, right? And it's about, like, how do you know that you should marry someone? And when you do istikhara, right? People think that they make istikhara, Allahumma inni astaghfiruka binika wa astaghfiruka bika, and then they go to sleep, they're like, I'm going to dream tonight something amazing, like the sister will be brought down on, I don't know, on a plate or something, huh? It's not like that, guys. Allah just makes things easy. You'll feel it. I'm horrible at istikharas. Every time I get a sign, I just move on, Just trust Allah. You will feel it. Allah will open doors or close doors, make things easy or make it difficult. You will know. You will just know. This is if a nice dream comes and says, okay, make sure you marry this one, alhamdulillah. Shall I take it as a bushra? So yes.
Okay. I think we'll end it right there. So, Jazakumullah khairan to everyone, the speaker especially. Alhamdulillah, I hope you all enjoyed the talk. I pretty much did. Before you leave, I apologize because I didn't ask some of your questions. So, as the speaker mentioned his email, if you don't mind, could I just put it on the projector?
I think I don't use my email so much, mostly for work. So the social media.
Social media.
Yeah. So GALR. Wait, 1 O.
Sorry.
2 A's. Yeah, that's my Instagram or Facebook, Gabriel Romani. With Gabriel, instead of G. Space. A-L.
Also, it's Gabriel.
Space. A-L. R-O. Yeah, M, double A, and yeah. So you guys have, sometimes when I don't get, I get too many questions, maybe you can send me a question. I do like a live broadcast, just answering questions. Like usually last, like Twins of Faith and others, when there was so many questions, I just did an extra live broadcast and answered those questions. So that sometimes works. Because a lot of people might have the same question as well. So it's good to do that. So that's first one is the Instagram, second one is the Facebook.
So I apologize once more. If I couldn't ask your questions, you may ask them over here. So we'll leave it with that. Refreshments are waiting for you outside. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah. 10 minutes? We'll be praying Isha in the masjid 10 minutes later, inshallah. 10 minutes from now, Isha in the masjid. Stop. I don't think it's stopped. It's not stopped.